Hello everyone and welcome to the RacingBet racing preview ahead of what is probably one of the biggest days on the Australian racing calendar. It's Derby Day at Flemington, kick off the Melbourne Cup carnival, and for any punter out there, this is like being a kid on Christmas Eve. Trent, we're set for one hell of a Saturday of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is the biggest day of racing on the Australian calendar, and it's delivered in spades again. It should be a great day.
We've got 4 Group 1s on the card, those being the Group 1 Empire Rose Stakes, the Coolmore Stud Stakes, of course the feature, the VRC Derby, and the Kennedy Cantala to round things off. Big fields, wide open betting markets are the theme of the day. Looks a pretty tough day to bet in overall, but there should be plenty of value around.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially some of the Group 1s, you can make some cases for some runners at longer odds. Earlier in the day, there's a couple of favourites that do look hard to beat, but I think there's some good betting opportunities all round, really.
How do you expect this track to play? The weather in Melbourne looks relatively good. A drop of rain here and there between probably Thursday and Saturday, but overall should be racing on a good 4, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the Bomb haven't had the best spring, but I think minimal rain expected. We should be on a good 4. Yeah, rail true. Flemington, Derby Day, they're not going to get it wrong here. It's going to be a very fair track, I would have thought.
All right, we'll quickly take you through our best bets and best value bets on the card at Flemington. We're just going to stick to Flemington this weekend, and then we'll have a look at all 4 of the Group 1s. We're going to try and keep this within about 15 or 20 minutes, so we'll see how we go. Trent, we'll kick off with your best bet of the day. It comes up in race number 3, down the Flemington straight. You're with horse number 9, Octane, currently $2.80.
Yeah, pretty keen on Octane here, just getting back to Flemington. We saw a couple of starts go over the 1,000 metres down the straight. He was a very dynamic winner. Thought his last start run in the Scalacci Stakes was very good. He didn't take the corner at Caulfield particularly well. Still ran on very strongly. He was only beaten about half a length or so by Dirty Work and Diamond Effort. Beat home Haydock that day, who's come out and won the Manikato since. I think getting back to Flemington where he can really build momentum down the straight is key for him. If this were 1,100, I'd be declaring him. Just that last little bit at 1,200, he hasn't really been tested at since he's been with the Stokes camp, but I think it should be fine, especially with minimal speed on paper. He should get every chance to run out the 1,200. And with 54 kilos on board, Jamie Carr's flying. He ticks a lot of boxes, and I think he'll be very hard to beat.
Jamie Carr is absolutely airborne. 4 winners, Moonee Valley, Cox Plate Day. There's no better informed jockey in Melbourne at the moment than her. I thought one of the big odds that you could include in that race was Tactical Advantage. I was keen on him in Sydney last start. He was given less than none with the ride. And his only start down the Flemington Straight was a dominant win. So around $26, he's not the worst chance to include in your trifectas and first 4s.
Absolutely. And I've actually got him as the value play in the race as well. Pretty keen to have a crack at Octane and have something on Tactical Advantage. I agree. $26 for a horse proven down the straight like him is a big price.
There you go. And I didn't even know that. I just threw that out there on my own accord. So good to see you agree. We'll move on to your best value bet of the day. It comes up in the race prior, race number 2 on the card. It's the Group 2 Wakeful Stakes over 2,000 metres for the 3-year-old fillies. You're the filly coming down from Sydney. Horse number 8, Miravalle, Mark Newnham. Craig Williams takes the ride, currently $10.
Yeah, I just think we've seen time and time again this spring that the Sydney form really stacks up. I think these Melbourne fillies aren't really much good, especially the staying ones. I think horses like Star Rail, Succeed Indeed, they're very even. I'm not really sure they're kind of group horses or going towards an Oaks. They're going to be big players. Miravalle comes down from Sydney. I think she's been mixing her form a little bit. I thought her run 3 back or so in the Tea Rose was very good when making up a lot of late ground over 1,400 metres. Then they went to the Flight Stakes and they rode her wrong. They just tried to push forward on a hot tempo, sat outside the leader and just dropped out, which is not the way to ride her. They went back to riding her cold in the Spring Champion. I thought she ran quite well. She got flushed out very wide on the corner when a horse kind of shifted out on her. She made ground quite steadily down the outside, beat home Cherry Tortoni that day in the Spring Champion, who came out and won next start back in Melbourne last week. So I think the form's quite good there behind Montefilia. I just think these Melbourne fillies don't have a whole lot in them. So I think she's the value in the race. Although I do concede that Personal number 1 is going to be the hardest to beat coming out of the 1,000 guineas. But I was happy enough to play Miravalle at the odds.
Fair enough. I was just going to ask you to touch on Personal, but good to get your thoughts there. We'll move on to my best bets of the day. Very, very tricky card overall. I really struggled to kind of come up with anything here. anything confidently anyway, as can be the theme on Derby Day. My best comes up in race number 5. It is the first of the Group 1, so maybe we'll just let it pass. In fact, my best bets both come up in 2 of the Group 1, so we might as well segue into that. We'll kick off with the first of the Group 1s, which is the Empire Rose Stakes. And my best bet is one of the 3-year-old fillies coming off a win in the Group 1000 Guineas. It is the favourite, number 12, Odeum, currently $3.70. I thought her win in the 1,000 Guineas was like outstanding. It's quite funny how Michael Walker said in all the days leading up to the race, "You'll call me on Sunday after she wins the 1,000 Guineas." And when she did, she absolutely belted them. 3-year-old fillies in this race do have a relatively good record. We've seen back in 2016, I Am a Star won, followed that with Shoals in 2017. They carried 49 and 50 kilos respectively. So I think she's got 49.5 on her back here. I think she should find a position up on speed somewhere. And if she is able to reproduce that performance from her 1,000 Guineas win, I do struggle to see anything kind of beating her here. If you look back through the field, like, I know Mystic Journey bounced back to win last start. She did beat Perfect Jewel. Perfect Jewel then came out and failed. So there's a little bit of a query on that race at Miravalle in that form, and whether Mystic Journey really is at her very best. She does have a fantastic record at the track and distance, but she would need to be at her very best probably to win this. I did think one you could include at huge odds in this race was Missile Mantra at $26. She's had 4 runs back from a spell now. I think she's just been building and building with each run. 2 starts ago, she ran 3rd in the Rose of Kingston Stakes over 1,400 here at Flemington behind Sierra Sue. I think that's a really good form line. I think Sierra Sue is probably a major player in the Golden Eagle over in Sydney today. And then last start, she was beaten about 0.7 lengths by Sovereign Award. We saw Sovereign Award then go to Miravalle and win once again last weekend. So I think the form there is relatively strong. Stays at 1,600 metres, blinkers back on, Damien Lane for Peter and Paul Snowden. They'll have a spot on for the Group 1 here. Your thoughts in the race, Trent?
Yeah, I kind of sided with Mystic Journey here. I wasn't really sure what to make of the 1,000 Guineas form. I agree with you that 3-year-olds do have a good record in this race. We touched on a couple there. I think Odeum's going to be trying to make full use of that lightweight. She'll probably settle in the first 4 or 5 or so and try and skip away around the turn and see if Mystic Journey's good enough to run her down. But I thought Mystic Journey's run in the stock stakes at Miravalle was very good. I know that Perfect Jewel hasn't really come out and done much since, but I think Perfect Jewel might just be ready for a spell now. I think her runs leading into that and that run in the stock stakes were very good, and I think she's just kind of ready for a break now.
I'll just get you to touch on the other 3-year-olds in the race. Chica Fuerte, drawn 13, and Forbidden Love, drawn 14. Chica Fuerte comes off a win in the Ethereal, and Forbidden Love comes off a win in the Reginald Allen Quality up in Sydney.
Yeah, I don't really think either of them are probably good enough, especially not carrying the same weight as Odeum. I think Chica Fuerte, she's probably, coming back to 1,600. I'm not really sure what the goal is there. She's obviously not pressing on to the Oaks after running at 2,000 metres last start. Not really sure what to make of her there. Forbidden Love, first time up to 1,600 metres in a probably what looks to be a fairly high pressure Group 1 race, drawn wide. She likes to kind of roll to the front as well. So I'd be happy enough to take her on as well.
Here is a stat for you. Now, I like my stats in these races, right? I'm going to take you through every single winner since 2007 here. And get this for barrier positions, winning barrier positions. Ready? 13, 9, 10, 10, 10, 13, 10, 13, 13, 6, 12, 5, and 11. So since 2011, there's been 4 in barrier 13, 4 in barrier 12, 4 in barrier 10, should I say? 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 2 that are drawn out there, a couple you just touched on, Chica Fuerte in barrier 10 and Felicia in barrier 10 and Chica Fuerte in barrier 13. So for those that are stats gurus at home that are looking for some to throw in their trifectas and first fours, throw in Felicia and Chica Fuerte. Any others to touch on that race before we move on to the next one?
I think number 11, Shallot will improve back to Flemington. She's a horse with a lot of potential. This might just be a little bit soon for her, but I think she's going to be probably riding this race next year.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We'll move on to the next Group 1 of the day. It is the Group 1 Coolmore Stud Stakes for the 3-year-olds. gee, what to make of this race here. Let's start off with the top one, Farnan, of course. He was a very controversial run and pretty disappointing in the run to the Rose. Golden Slipper winner. Where do you see him fitting in here?
Yeah, he's clearly the toughest one to assess for mine. There's a big hype on him coming back as the Golden Slipper winner. Probably helped along by Gay Waterhouse declaring he's not going to get beaten.
Unlike Gay.
Went out very quickly. He went out very quickly in that run to the Rose. He wasn't beaten all that far. It was 3.8 lengths. It's not like he was, dropped out and finished last and was beaten out of sight. He had a recent trial at Gosford over 1,000 metres with Glenn Boss on board, who takes the ride here again, which was an outstanding trial. But again, he was trialling very well leading into his first up run as well. So it is a different test with race day pressure. I found him, really hard to assess. I don't really want to lose on him in the race because he is very talented. And if they've got him right, then he could be very hard to beat. And Bossy has been spot on with his Group 1 predictions this spring. And he has come out and said this horse could win by 3 or 4 lengths if he wants to. So I think you've got to have him on side here. He's a big danger.
Yeah, I basically agree with everything you say there, but I probably won't be backing him. I thought the $10 about Anders was a terrific price. You take out his last start, and I know he's had issues and complications in his preparation, and he had 6 weeks between runs, and then he failed as the $1.35 favourite last start. But you take out that run, and this horse would be favourite for this race, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't work out why he's $10 at all. I thought he was. I sent out a tweet a few days ago, I think, just highlighting a few of his recent runs, and he started $1.35, $2.80, $2.40, $2.90, and $3 in his last 5 runs, and he's won most of them. Now he comes here at $10, and I thought that he had plenty of excuses in that last run. It was his first go at 1,200 meters, first go around Caulfield. He was basically pressured in it was a 3-horse race, but it was a 3 wide line for basically the whole race. He didn't really get a breather at all. I thought he actually stuck on very well 7 weeks between runs, going to 1,200 for the first time. With that run under his belt, I know he pulled up with heat stress. I don't really know how much to read into that exactly. But if he's pulled up fine from that race, Myron Eustace, they're going to have him right for this. Zara jumps on. I think he's a terrific value at the $10.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the better value bets of the day on the card. Wild Ruler comes across from Sydney, 2 out of 2 this preparation, wins in the Heritage Stakes and the Roman Consul Stakes. Probably one that I've watched closer than you have. He was never, ever getting beat last start the way the race was set up, and they seemed to know that before the race. He was backed as if unbeatable, and he won by 2 lengths. Returned in very good order, this horse. Barrier 14, not too concerned there. James McDonald booked for Team Snowden. They know how to prepare a colt for this race.
Yeah, definitely. He's obviously a big player. His recent jump out down the straight as well was very good. He looked to handle it very nicely. This is a real different setup for him here. Like his last couple of runs, he's been able to sit handy to the speed off just even tempos and really sprint away. I think he's going to have plenty of company up on speed here. He's drawn barrier 14, Farnan's drawn barrier 10. So you'd expect them to be probably next to each other up in the front there, with Anders drawn barrier 2, probably leading kind of the other side of the pack. And I just thought that off a fast run tempo at 1,200 meters, perhaps his sprint's going to be nullified a bit there. So I don't know. I thought he was probably one that I was happy enough to take on here, but I can see he is a big winning chance. It's just whether he can replicate his last runs off a much faster tempo.
Couple of fillies in the race. Swats that down the bottom, currently $8.50, and September Rain, who's September Run, should I say, close enough to favourite here at $4.60, coming off back-to-back wins down the Flemington Straight.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to kind of line up. I think there's a lot of people kicking up for September Run. There's a lot of support for her because she posted some very good times and very good sectionals last start down the straight. But I've just got a little bit of a query on the form. I know she ran good time, but she's only beaten a couple of horses like Maha and there's a couple of other ones there, Minhaj, by only a length and a half, and they'd be 50s chances here. I would have thought, if maybe even longer. She's an obvious player. I think barrier 12, no problem. She'll just sit back off the hot tempo and get to the outside with Willow on board. I don't think fillies have a very good record in this race from what I was reading. I think it's generally the stallion making race, as they say, and colts kind of hold the wood over the fillies here. I thought she was short enough, but I think there's going to be a lot of support for her on the day, and hopefully that just means we get a bit of a better price about some of the others.
Yeah, there's only a couple of fillies basically in the last 10 years or so, and that's Nikita and Sunlight a couple of years ago, of course. Yeah, fascinating race. Which way would you be betting?
I think Anders is clearly the value in the race. I was happy enough to have him on top. I thought you could have a saver on Farnan. I'm not sure what the market's going to do with Farnan. I think Anders should start shorter just off of his SP profile. It has to come down, I would have thought. Not sure what they do with Farnan, but happy to save on him. And I thought one at big odds that could run a cheeky race is number 11, Flying Award.
I knew you would say that, and I was going to say the exact same thing.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Yeah, just had a bit of a weird prep. He ran over 1,200 meters first up, ran very well, coming from a long way back to just miss Immortal Love. Beat Home Ranting there, who obviously just got the better of Anders and Hanseatic in the Blue Sapphire. And then he obviously pulled up quite, something wrong after the race in the 1,400 meter, the Guineas Prelude. They kind of pulled the plug on the Guineas prep. They've had to freshen up here, back to 1,200. Just thought he was a big price at $26 for a horse of his talent.
Yep, fair enough. I'm with you. I think Anders is the way to go at $10. Pretty decent bet there. And others I'll be looking to back would be Wild Ruler and Flying Award. Moving on to race number 7. This is the feature of the day, the Group 1 2,500 metre VRC Derby. For the 3-year-olds over 2,500 metres, as I just said. What do we do with this favourite? Another favourite where we don't really know what to do. Horse number 5, Young Werther. Of course, he didn't run at Moonee Valley as he was supposed to last weekend. They scratched him with the downgrade at the track. So he comes here straight after running second in the Superimposed Stakes. He's had 4 weeks between runs, jumps from 1,800 to 2,500 metres at just his 3rd career start. The winkers go on for Danny O'Brien and Damien Oliver.
Yeah, I found it really tough to line this horse up. I think he's clearly the most talented horse in the race. He should have won that Superimposed Stakes. Not really getting a lot of clear air until the last 200 metres. Just at his 3rd career start, he still does so much wrong, as a young, inexperienced horse, as you'd expect, really. Maybe the winkers on will straighten him up a little bit. That's what we were kind of thinking going into the Moonee Valley race, when he was scratched. I just don't know what to make of him here. At least you're getting a bit of a price, like you're getting almost double the price you're going to be taking in that race. But just that step up to 2,500 metres, Danny O'Brien seems to think it'll be no problem at all. He's saying he's as fit as Russian Camelot. Obviously, the comparisons are going to be made with that horse. This horse is no Russian Camelot. He hasn't done anything to suggest that yet. But, this isn't the most, yet. He isn't the most vintage Derby, though. Like, I don't think there's any real stars in here. And he's the one that could be a staying, a real staying force in years to come. $4 or so. He might get out a little bit more on the day. You could probably back him at that price, but it's a really tricky one.
Yeah, when I first looked at this race, I was expecting him to be like 250 or something. Like O'Brien, Oliver, Young, Hype Horse. And then I saw there's $4 available. And to me, that's probably a bet in this race. If there's one stable that I wouldn't be worried about stepping up from 18 to 2,500 and with a gap between runs, it's probably Danny O'Brien. So, yeah, with the good draw, I think $4 has to be a bet here. Cherry Tortoni, he comes off a win in the Moonee Valley Vars last weekend on the quick backup here.
Yeah, and he's been the one that's been well supported in early markets, but I thought he was short enough now. I think we're going to be on a good track here, and I think he does prefer getting his toe in a little bit. He just got the better of Quay Quay last start. Obviously, that form lines up very easily with Young Werther, who should have beaten Quay Quay quite comfortably, I think, in that Superimposed Stakes. Barrier 14, Billy Egan's probably going to get a long way back here. I just thought, he's almost the same price as Young Werther is now, and I thought he was probably short enough here. I know there's one at big odds that we're both kind of keen to have something on, so I'll let you talk about number 3, Johnny Get Angry.
I can't believe this horse is $34. He's running the Superimposed behind Quay Quay and Young Werther was terrific. Like beaten just a touch under 2 lengths, settled well back as he typically does from barrier 16. Ran on strong in the straight, ran home really well. And then his last start at Moonee Valley in the Vars, I don't know if that's his track, first and foremost. But I just think up to 2,500 metres, like this horse is just going to be suited down to the ground by that distance. Gets the blinkers on for the first time. And to me, I think this is probably the race they've set him for all along. Like big, kind of long striding horse, gets back to Flemington where we've seen him run well in the past. I think this is the perfect race for him. And with a lot of horses in these types of races, like a lot of early 3-year-olds don't run the distance. So that sorts out half the field, those that can't run the distance. I'm really confident this horse is going to be able to run a strong 2,500 metres. So I thought at $34 here was clearly the overs in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, Miravalle, last start, didn't really work out. Cherry Tortoni and Quay kind of got going really early, probably before he was ready to kind of move into the race, and he just got left standing flat-footed there, kind of, run home okay. He was beaten a long way, but I think, Flemington, 2,500 metres, and when he can really start to build revs at the right time, I think he's probably going to be the one that's, really, really hitting the line strongly over 2,500 metres, and you can definitely have something on him at big odds.
Can anything out of the Caulfield Classic win this? We saw a kind of a bunch finish with the likes of Alvarado, Let's Crack a Deal, Hit the Shot, and Redwood Shadow. Best run out of that race is, you could argue was Hit the Shot and Redwood Shadow, the third and fourth place getters. Can any of those come out and win the Derby?
Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me if one of them won. They've been around, their form's been very similar to a few of these. Like Alvarado was a really good race in that superimposed as well and making a long, wide run. Hit the Shot, probably hit the line the strongest there, probably would be most suited, stepping up 2,500 metres. Redwood Shadow just kind of looked like he was going to be the winner on the turn and just gave out a little bit late. I don't think 2,500 metres will be a problem, but he's a very inexperienced horse as well. And it's just, again, I'm just not really sure about him at this stage of his career. I think he's quite a promising stayer though. And Alvarado, you got to give a case to him, but it's just one of those races that, there's so little between them all, and it's just going to come down to who gets the best run, I think. And from the map, really, that does look to be Young Werther drawn barrier 4.
Yep. So how are we betting this race? I'm going to have, I'll be backing Young Werther. I just think $4 is a good price. I think the best out of those Caulfield Classic horses, I reckon, will be the Kieran Maher David Eustace horse. Let's Crack a Deal. He's currently $11. And I obviously think $34 about Johnny Get Angry. You have to have something on there. How about you?
Yeah, I'd probably go something on Young Werther, something on Johnny Get Angry. And I'd be happy to leave it at that, not getting too involved. But they do look the two plays for me.
Okay, we'll move on to the final Group 1 of the day. It's the Kennedy Cantala Stakes, 1,600 metres, race 8 on the card. Probably the hardest of the Group 1s, I would have thought. We've got a capacity field of 16 lining up here. Favourite looks to be in the form of number 2, Mr. Quickie at $5.50.
Yeah, coming off a win in the Toorak handicap, he was given an absolutely great ride by our girl Jay Carr again. Kind of draw barrier 2 there, sucked up along the rail, got the splits at the right time, and was was a dominant winner. He's always had that Group 1 talent, and he did it with the 59 kilos there. Barrier 16 here means he'll be back a long way. He's going to be giving some horses a big start. Actually meets a few of them out of the Toorak better at the weights for beating them. Not sure how that works, but he's obviously in the game again. I just think, is he going to get too far back here and be a flashing light run? I'm not sure. I found it really tough to kind of really have a good crack at something strongly in the market. I was happy to spec a few here just at really big odds and hope one gets the right run and gets the chocolates here. The first one being number 14, Chief Ironside. I thought his run in the Toorak was quite...
I would not have picked that.
Yeah, I thought his run in the Toorak was quite good. He carried 57 kilos there. I thought Bowman just he had the chance to be a bit further forward than he was. He ended up settling, off midfield really, when this horse kind of does most of his racing, just off the pace, just behind the leaders. Drops down to 53 kilos here, which I think is a big tick. He draws barrier 3 again. Kieran McAvoy takes the ride, so no knock there. I just think, he's clearly good enough at his best. His Crystal Mile win last year was very good. I just thought at around $26 or so, he's probably not the worst hope in the race, dropping down to the 53 kilos. There's one, and I want to get your thoughts on this horse as well. Number 11, the Velvet King, who I thought would improve drastically here. Run over 1,200 meters first up. It was just basically a barrier trial with the big weight. Drops 8 kilos in weight, I think, here. And his form in WA is, it's pretty good. I'll let you touch on that a little bit more if you like.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've got a list of horses in front of me that I want to highlight, and he's right in there. And at $51, I thought he was the blowout chance in the race. You're right, given a complete barrier trial first up, ridden cold, 61.5 kilos from the wide gate, held up to the 150, just, built through late. Does jump from 1,200 straight up to 1,600, second up from a spell. So he's hardly had the ideal grounding for a race like this, but He's got a very good second up record. And I wouldn't be surprised from barrier 4 to see him ridden much further forward today. Luke Nolan gets down to 53.5 kilos. There's probably a good reason for that. And like we saw him in WA, he used to race right up on the speed, you know, in the first 4 in the running. So that's what I mean. He was clearly just given a hit out first up there over 1,200, but up to 1,600 on a slower tempo. Wouldn't be surprised to see him right up on the speed from barrier 4. And I agree, $51 is way over the odds, and I would definitely be including him. A couple more that I thought were over the odds. I'm going to stick with having something on number 16, King's Legacy, the 3-year-old. $21 is available. He pulled up last start in the Caulfield Guineas. I was really keen on him that day in the Caulfield Guineas, and he pulled up with a throat issue. He's had 3 weeks between runs, and I just think for a 3-year-old colt that's won multiple Group 1 races, if he wasn't 100% here, I doubt they would be taking their spot. Like, why would they line up in a Group 1 with a 3-year-old colt that's worth millions if he had an issue? So I'm forgiving him for that last start failure, and completely respecting him here as the kind of bringing a different form line as the 3-year-old and race with 51 kilos on his back. G-Boss on board, drawn well barrier 6. And obviously comes out of the Golden Rose where he ran third to Ole Kirk. So I think $21 is way over the odds here. 1 or 2 more. You've touched on Mr. Quickie. 50 stars. He's got a phenomenal third up record, 4 wins from 5 starts. Barrier 15, 58 kilos. He'll need to be at his very best on a firm deck, but he does go very well over this track and distance and comes off a good run behind Wild Planet, who also must be included as a chance here. Wild Planet, his win in the Moonga Stakes was strong, and he brought some strong form behind the likes of Probabeel and Funstar prior to that in Sydney. And then there's this Waller horse, Yulong Prince. Now, he ran well in the Chelmsford first up in Sydney, backed that up with running 4th in the Epsom Handicap last start. Comes here third up from a spell. He's got a good third up record. He's 1 from 1 at Flemington. And I think, from memory, he's Chris Waller's only runner in the race. So I would be very, very wary of Yulong Prince. Any others that I've missed?
Yeah, Waller's got one more in the race. He's also got Olmedo, who's a tricky horse to line up with J-Mac, international galloper, who had 1 run in Sydney last prep and failed. So he's very tricky to line up there. I agree with you, King's Legacy. I'll be having something on him as well. I just thought he's too good a horse to ignore there. Clearly something wasn't right in the Guineas. Bowman apparently said he kind of just didn't handle the Caulfield track at all, dropped a bit real early. And he said he'd be better suited at Flemington with Boss taking the ride here. Buffalo River has to be included. I thought his run in the Toorak was really, really good. You know, went for home early, just beaten by a better horse, Mr. Quickie on the day, who got a great ride. He'll be right up on speed again. If this, for whatever reason, this track does get into the soft range, I'll definitely be having something on him. But on a good track, I just think his best asset is probably taken away a little bit, but he's right in the game as well. Yeah, there's a host of other chances. You could make cases for almost any of them. 50 stars, I agree, is a big chance. He's going to back up next week in the McKinnon, and I was keen to be on him, but then Armory and Arcadia Queen apparently lining up, so he might struggle a little bit there. But he's a big chance as well, yeah. Okay, how are we playing this race? Yeah, I think I'm just going to spec a couple here. Chief Ironside, King's Legacy, and the Velvet King. I probably have, if it was just going on a unit way, just be real simple, half a unit Chief Ironside and a quarter of a unit each King's Legacy, the Velvet King, just at really big odds to try and get something back, but it does look a tough race. Yep, I'll be taking $21 King's Legacy, $51 the Velvet King. I'll be having something at $14 on Yulong Prince. And I'll see how I go close to the race, whether I include the likes of 50 Stars or Wild Planet. Yeah, I just have to see with that one. But those are the three anyway at the big odds that I'm keen on. Okay, that wraps us up. Trent's got to go. We're all got things to do and people to see and previews to write. We'll have a runner-by-runner preview of the Derby and a runner-by-runner preview of the Golden Eagle in Sydney up on racingbet.com.au. Going to have a full race-by-race meeting coverage of tomorrow night's meeting at Moonee Valley and, of course, then Flemington and Rose Hill on Saturday. It's all happening, ready to kick off a huge Melbourne Cup week. We're going to have video previews for basically every single day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival, full written previews, and hopefully a stack of winners to get us through the greatest week in Australian racing. Trent, all the best on Saturday and looking forward to the week ahead.